it's me, Sarah, and today I will be answering all of the questions that you asked me from the previous video that I did, and I was actually pretty overwhelmed with how many questions that everyone was asking. I just had this image of like one question per subscriber, but it was actually really cool that everyone asked multiple questions. So let's go ahead and get started. There's a whole bunch of them to go through. What made you start writing, and what writing means to you today? Well, actually, it's kind of funny. What made me start writing was Bobby Darin. I was like 16 or 17 when I got like really hardcore into Bobby, and I actually had a pretty naive and innocent kind of mind when it came to sex and stuff. And when I started liking Bobby, I started having these, well, let's just say it, horny feelings that I didn't really know how to deal with. My hormones just like skyrocketed and went crazy. And so I started writing sex stories with Bobby Darin in them as a way to release all these emotions creatively. And I wrote like, gosh, like 30 or something dirty stories. A lot of them within a couple of days of each other, and I did that for a long time, like a couple years before I actually started writing serious stories. And what writing means to me today is something completely different, because it's a lot more important to me. It's a lot more serious, and I've actually gone from writing the dirty stories to writing novels, like my first novel, Warriors of the Vampire, and the novel that I'm working on now, Ecliptos. Those are a lot more serious. It's about character development. It's about creatively expressing in an environment of my own making. And there's very little sex. There is sex, but it's not nearly as explicit as I used to write it. What's your favorite color? Where did you learn to sing? I really love your voice. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. My favorite color is dark purple, like a deep kind of purple. Do I have anything in my room right now that is that color? Yes, I do. This is my favorite color. I guess you'd call it deep purple. I actually don't want to throw that. Then what was the other one? Oh yes, where did I learn to sing? It was actually because of Bobby Darin. I know everyone's laughing at me right now because Bobby has influenced me so much, and a lot of you are probably wondering, who is that guy? Don't worry, I will tell you. Eventually. But I did start singing because of Bobby. I loved his songs so much. 50s music was like really, really big for me. Still is. When I was about 14 or 15, I started singing old standards because I wanted to be just like Bobby. I wanted to have this swing kind of thing going on in my voice, and I didn't even really think that I could sing all that well until I made my mom and dad a couple of albums for like their birthdays and stuff, and they told me that I had a really good voice, so I just kept singing along with the standards, and eventually discovered Within Temptation, and I think I was 16 when I recorded an album of Within Temptation songs for my mom, and she loved it. And I was like, this is so cool. I didn't know I could sing gothic rock. So, no singing lessons or anything like that. I just started singing, and people told me I was good, and I just kept singing. How did you start filming films and making videos? That is a very good question, and this is going to be a fun one to answer. I was 10 years old, and my entire life up until that point, all I ever wanted to do was make movies, specifically horror movies. The Scream movies, the series, really, really inspired me when I was little, and I just wanted to make my own slasher film. And when I was 10 years old, on my 10th birthday, I begged my grandmother to let me borrow her very old, large, camera. I begged her, and she allowed me to use it, of course, and I made my very first movie ever in the history of Sarah with my Generation Girl Barbies. It was called The Claw, and it had that bad guy in it I had an action figure from Resident Evil 2, the William Birkin action figure, the one with the big claw. Most of you guys probably don't know what I'm talking about, but Resident Evil 2 is my favorite, and William Birkin was my favorite big bad guy. And he had this big claw, and I made him go and kill all my Generation Girl Barbies, except for Barbie Roberts, because he was in love with her. And that's really how it started. After that day, there was always a camera in my hands. I filmed every single day up until then, and every single day after that, I was, you know, either working on a movie, filming one right then, or planning for one, or buying little props for my Barbies, because I did Barbie movies for a very long time. But that's how I got into filmmaking. I knew after that first movie that this was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. As far as making videos goes, like for YouTube, I mean, after movie making, and then discovering YouTube, I was like, well, what would be cooler than to really put myself out there? I've always been an outgoing type of person that generally likes to make videos with me and or about me, and I was like, hey, people can totally comment on my stuff. So that was really a no-brainer to get on YouTube. Would you consider doing any kind of musical project together? I'm also curious. What's your favorite color? Well, I just told you all my favorite colors, so I will tell you my second favorite color. It's blood red. Because blood red is awesome. And yes, actually, I clicked on your page after you asked me that question, and I noticed that you play piano. And if you meant you and me doing a project together, then you should private message me, because we could totally make something awesome happen. LOL, I hope you don't mind if I ask another question. Of course not. When and how did you get saved? Well, the very first time that I prayed the sinner's prayer and asked God to come into my heart, forgive me of all my sins, etc., etc., I was 3 years old, I think. No, it was probably 5 years old. My mom was getting me ready for church. She was actually putting my underwear on, and I didn't really fully understand to the extent what I was doing. I was just always raised and brought up in that environment, and so I heard my parents talk about it, and of course they told me about it. And I knew, even at that age, that it was something very important that I needed to do for my life, and very early on. And so my mom prayed with me, and then when I was about 12, and I really kind of understood the concept more and sort of felt it more, I was at this play in the town where I used to live called, like, Heaven's Gates, Hell's Flames, or something like that, and they had an altar call afterwards, and I went up and accepted the Lord again, sort of when I really grasped what I was doing. Wow, this is like a major series of questions, so this should be fun. What's your favorite food, animal, color? Well, I have told you my favorite color twice. Well, my favorite colors. So let's see, if I had to pick a third favorite color, I would have to say black. Don't judge me, alright? I have gothness running through my veins, and I like the color black, and it looks good on people. Johnny Cash wore black, so good for him. My favorite animal. I've actually never thought of this. My favorite animal. Are you talking like my favorite pet? Let's just say my favorite pet. I would definitely have to say dogs. I am a dog person, even though I have an adorable, beautiful, magical, wonderful cat named Cream Puff, and I love him more than I have ever loved any cat in my life. I am still a dog person.